Shalom, 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 guys. It is now night here. Feast of Trumpets is over. I feel very refreshed after that beautiful Feast of Trumpets. I hope you all were blessed by that. And it's right back to work. Right back to work with a brand new story. I'll first start off with this. You know what? We need to get some light going here. There we go. Remember, if you're wanting to go to this event, if you're 100% committed, go ahead and send me your email address. My email is in the links below the video. And by the way, you know, to the 30 plus people that are on the email list, if you do not respond to the roll call, that was my first email and I sent it out a number of days ago, only about 5 or 6 people have responded with photos of themselves, and so we can all get to know each other. If you're not going to respond, I'm cutting you from the list. So it'll bring us from 30 down to about 5 or 6 people. But if you're not even comfortable enough sending a photo to everyone on a 30 member list and you can't trust each other, then I'm not going to trust you. So I will be cutting that list down to about 5 or 6 people going forward, unless you're willing to do the roll call email that I sent out initially. So just an FYI on that. And this isn't about numbers anyway. This is, I mean, trust me, even 5 or 6 of us with me street preaching in front of the White House, oh, we'll get attention. We will. My shofar blowing, us lifting up our voices, yeah, we'll get attention, even if it's just 5 or 6. Remember, in the Bible, Gideon, his army was only 300 people against millions and millions of the enemies that were coming against Israel. Well, maybe not millions, but several thousand. So, and the scripture also says 1 can put 1,000 to flight and 2 can put 10,000. So we only need 5 or 6 people. That's fine. So yeah, if you're on the list and you haven't responded, I'm cutting you going forward. So that's how it's going to be. All right, and then if you haven't signed the petition, please do so. Remember, it'll send a verification email to you, so you have to do that verification email in order for your signature to be counted. If we get 100,000 by October 28th, then the White House has to, by law, respond to the petition. Anyone notice that Q took the Feast of Trumpets off? Thank you, Q. Appreciate that shout out. I hope you enjoyed your Feast of Trumpets. Nice to know he's following the right calendar. Hallelujah. Okay, let's get right into it. So we're going international now. This is going to be a story from Vancouver, British Columbia. Give me 1 second here. I got to set something up so that we get some light on this situation and it doesn't keep bugging out on me. British Columbia. In Vancouver, in and around Vancouver, British Columbia, just have a huge story. And some of you have heard about the origins of this story. It's still going on today. It's horrific what's happening, actually. Very horrific. My setup here. I really need like a secretary or someone to help me because I got, you know, right now, currently I have like 6 or 7 stories that are on the burner. And then I have hundreds of emails that I can't respond to. And then I got my one-man operation. No. I guess I don't need a secretary. What I really need, well, I have him. I have Yah. He's helping me. I just got to get more organized. Okay, so I had a subscriber, and I haven't gotten permission to use her name, but she forwarded to me one link and information. And then my assistant, Kathy, who helps me with my platforms and things, she actually lives down in British Columbia. She literally, when she was a young girl, she attended one of these schools that I'm going to talk about in the story here. So I'm going to provide all these links. I got several of them. I got, let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got 5 links that I'm going to be putting below the video, all corroborating this story and branching out from there. So this is heavily corroborated, cross-checked, verified, and even with some eyewitnesses here. So the first story is welcome to ICCS.org. If you don't know who ITCS is, it is the International Court of what does it stand for? International Court of Common. Well, we'll get to it. I know it's in one of these stories. Star eyewitness who named Queen of England in abduction of Aboriginal children dies suddenly in Vancouver hospital. So some of you know about this, but way back in 1964, Queen Elizabeth II, she is now 92 years old, still the Queen in England, In 1964, she abducted 10 children, 7 boys, 3 girls. This was in British Columbia, and they were never seen again. And she wound up raping these children and eating and cannibalizing these children. And here we go. So, star eyewitness who named Queen of England in abduction of her Aboriginal children dies suddenly in Vancouver hospital. This was back in 2011. The Aboriginal man who claimed to witness the abduction of 10 fellow residential school children by the Queen of England and her husband in October of 1964 at the Catholic school in Kamloops, BC. That school in Kamloops is where my assistant Kathy actually attended as a young girl. He has died suddenly at the Catholic-run St. Paul's Hospital in Vancouver. Again, this was in 2011 when he died. William Combs, age 59 and in good health, was scheduled to be a primary witness at the opening session of the International Tribunal into Crimes of Church and State. That's the ITCCS, the International Tribunal into Crimes of Church and State. And he was scheduled to show up on September 12th in London, England. I last saw William 10 days ago on the eve of my departure for a European speaking tour, and he looked better than I'd seen him in years. According to his partner, May, William was in stable health and was assigned a new doctor at St. Paul's Hospital this past week. William was then committed to the hospital for tests, and his health began to immediately deteriorate. He died suddenly yesterday of a still undisclosed cause. The Vancouver Coroner's Office refuses to comment on William's death. William was the sole survivor of a group of 3 Aboriginal boys who claimed to have witnessed the abduction of 10 children during a royal visit to the Kamloops residential school in mid-October 1964, when both the Queen and Prince Philip were in Canada. They took away those 10 kids and nobody ever saw them again, described William in several public statements made over the airwaves of my former Vancouver co-op radio program and in the following signed and witness declaration made on February 3rd, 2010. He said, "I'm an interior Salish spirit dancer and a 58-year-old. I live in Vancouver, Canada. I am a survivor of the Kamloops and Mission Indian residential schools, both run by the Roman Catholic Church. I suffered terrible tortures then at the hands especially of Brother Murphy, who killed at least 2 children. I witnessed him throw a child off a 3-story balcony to her death. He put me on a rack and broke some of my bones in the Kamloops school basement after I tried running away. I also saw him and another priest bearing a child in the school orchard one night. In October 1964, when I was 12 years old, I was an inmate at the Kamloops school and we were visited by the Queen of England and Prince Philip. I remember it was strange because they came by themselves, no big fanfare or nothing. But I recognized them and the school principal told us it was the Queen. And we all got given new clothes and good food for the first time in months the day before she arrived. The day the Queen got to the school, I was part of a group of kids that went on a picnic with her and her husband and some of the priests down to a meadow near Dead Man's Creek. I remember it was weird because we all had to bend down and kiss her foot, a white-laced boot. After a while, I saw the Queen leave the picnic with 10 children from the school, and those kids never returned. We never heard anything more about them and never met them again, even when we were older. They were all from around there, but they all vanished. The group that disappeared was 7 boys and 3 girls in age from 6 to 14 years old. They were all from the small group in my class. 2 of the boys were brothers, and they were Métis from Quesnel. Their last name was Arnoux or Arnold. I don't remember the others, just an occasional first name like Cecilia, and there was an Edward. Remember, he was only 12 years old at the time. What happened was also witnessed by my friend George Adolph, who was 11 years old at the time and a student there too, but he's dead now. I believe that William Combs died of foul play, and his murder was arranged by those who stood to lose from his speaking about his witnessing of the child abductions and other crimes of murder and torture at the Catholic Indian residential schools. I am writing a soon-to-be-issued eulogy for my friend and fellow fighter, William Arnold Combs. Like another murdered frontline Native activist, Johnny Bingo Dawson, who was killed by the Vancouver police in 2009, William will never be forgotten. And those who killed him will, like the system that caused the death of so many children, be brought to real justice. His murderers have not won. William's videotaped statements, including his witness of the 1964 abductions, have been registered in the archives of our ITCCS and will be made public at our opening session on September 12, 2011. I will be proposing to the ITCCS executive that William Combs and Johnny Dawson both be named posthumous honorary elders of the tribunal, in his name and memory and for all the children. So, of course, they did submit that in 2012, but nothing ever happened. So let's go to the next story. And so this now, my assistant, Kathy, she said I could use her first name. And here's what she has to say. She actually attended, let me just read her quotes directly. And of course, Twitter's not behaving. Okay, so she said, before I forget, Daniel, in the Queen and the Missing Kids link I sent your way, the article refers to Indian schools in Kamloops and Mission City, British Columbia. Mission City is where I was born and raised, about an hour outside of Vancouver, British Columbia. I told you this story once before when they finally shut down the Mission City Indian School. So she was in the Mission City Indian School, not the Kamloops, but they're both connected, both next to each other. When they finally shut down the Mission City Indian School down, the children were integrated into public schools. I think it was when I was in second grade, my second grade class. And I do remember vividly a young Indian boy in the back of my class who arrived scared as hell and so sad looking. He lasted just a few days in my classroom. I never saw him again, but the memory still haunts me today. He looked so broken. And yes, feel free to quote me on this if you want. The Indian school is located close by the monastery I spoke of. And in this monastery, I would see monks set up a trampoline and watch us kids from the windows of the abbey. This is all tied into the Vatican, the Catholic Church, and the Queen of England. Okay, so that's her testimony there. And now we're going to go to the next article. This is over 50,000 Native children were tortured, sexually abused, and some murdered at Canadian church-run Indian residential schools. This is by Damon Corey. And this is dated, when was this published? There's no date on this, but here we go. Over 50,000 Native children were tortured, sexually abused, and some murdered at a Canadian church-run Indian residential schools, and the Queen of England was found culpable for the disappearance of 10 Native children she took herself in person and were never seen again. Don't think it was only pedophile priests and nuns that have the blood of Native children on their hands. The royal bloodlines, the greatest parasites of humanity, and not the benevolent souls that they appear to be to their fans who idolize them, share this guilt as well. It sounds like some absurd claim to many who do not relentlessly trace the ancestries of European royal families, but in my research, I have found some very interesting facts. Namely, all European royal families can trace back by at least one ancestress to a member of the imperial bloodline of the Roman Empire, and the Roman emperors can trace back via at least one ancestor to the royal bloodlines of Egyptian dynasties, who in turn can trace back via at least one ancestor to the Babylonian royal bloodlines, which were the first royals to claim that a divine right to rule over mankind. So it all started in Babylon. It started in Nimrod, the Tower of Babylon, right after the flood is when this all happened, and where it started from. And even before the flood, well, I won't get into that. Okay, a divine right to rule over mankind was bestowed onto them from supernatural entities that they called gods, and also the first to engage in ritualistic child sex and sacrifice children to these gods. Perhaps the very self-evident preoccupation of the persons of this ilk to want to religiously preserve their bloodlines, sometimes slipping into the realm of genetic paranoia, might offer a logical scientific explanation as to their inherited psychosis that has left them the victims of this mental flaw due to several millennia of genetic inbreeding, for we all know that inbreeding creates genetic flaws that only become more acute over time if the practice is continued. Hemophilia was considered a royal disease precisely due to the genetic inbreeding among the royals of Europe. Truly and utterly convinced that they really do have some divine right to rule over other human beings, and who know what other mentally imbalanced rites and rituals may ensue, among those with such an intergenerational state of psychosis. So this article goes on, continues to corroborate what I just read about the missing children, and you can go ahead and research that yourself. I'll put that link below as well. There's another thread on the Queen and the missing children. This was dated back in July of 2012. And it shows the Queen Elizabeth with Anthony Blunt, who reportedly ran a pedophile ring, which included a lot of top people. It was long rumored that the unusual resemblance between Blunt and Edward VIII was because they were half-brothers. He said he witnessed the abduction of 10 fellow residential school children. This is, again, quoting the William Combs survivor who died under mysterious circumstances in 2011. According to an anonymous source, in Canada, government and church-run residential schools were used to systematically break down the communities over decades. Sexual abuse was normal, and murders also happened. Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip have been directly accused of being present at such a school when 10 kids went missing. An official inquiry was due to hear testimony in a few months from the last surviving witness to see the Queen with those kids, but the last witness died that week in mysterious circumstances. So again, it goes over the same story from a different angle, different sources, all the same facts. So I'll post that as well. And now we're going to get more into some more updated stuff that's going on just within the last few years. And this is from 2014, October of 2014. Oh, November and October. I got two different articles. So the first one in October, oh no, that's 2018. Sorry, that's even more recent. So the 2014 one we'll start with, and this is, again, I'll provide this link below the video. Canadian inquiry reveals possible West Coast wing of Ninth Circle sacrificial cult, 12 Mile Club, involves top judges, clergy, and politicians. This is November 8, 2014. A former employee of the Holy Rosary Catholic Cathedral has revealed details of a West Coast sacrificial cult involving the ritual rape and murder of children. The cult, known as the 12 Mile Club, operates from private yachts owned by Catholic businessmen and moored in West Vancouver. The abducted and tortured children are taken outside of Canada's 12-mile territorial limit, and their bodies are disposed of in the ocean. The witness shared his evidence this week with a special ITCCS inquiry formed in the wake of the exposure of Canadian government cabinet minister Dennis LaBelle's participation in a Ninth Circle ritual killing of a young boy in Rome on February 22, 2014. The witness attending meetings during 2007 and 2008 where former Archbishop Raymond Rousson and senior parish priest Glenn Dion planned, with church lawyers, the cover-up of their own involvement in the 12 Mile Club. According to the witness, the Archbishop and Glenn Dion named judges and other clergy as being members of the club, including former Chief Justice of the BC Provincial Court Hugh Stansfield, Justice William Essen and Terence Warren of the British Columbia Supreme Court, United Church clergyman and present moderator of that church, Gary Patterson, and National United Church officials Brian Thorpe and John Jessamine. Chief Justice Hugh Stansfield died suddenly in May 2009 after being named as a suspected child rapist. Archbishop Rousson resigned his position suddenly in January 2009 due to a nervous breakdown, according to the Vancouver Archdiocese. Referring to the Archbishop, the witness said, "At the last meeting I attended before he retired, that was in the spring of 2008, His Excellency was very worried about the protests at the cathedral by the Indians and Kevin Annette's group. He was afraid that all the reporters covering these protests would discover the 12 Mile Club and all the children who had gone missing. It all became too much for him." Common law citizens' arrest warrants were issued last year against 3 other alleged 12 Mile Club members, United Church moderator Gary Patterson and church officials Brian Thorpe and John Jessamine, for their role in concealing the trafficking and killing of children in their church's Indian residential schools. Asked about his knowledge of any connection between the 12 Mile Club and the Ninth Circle cult, the witness stated to ITCCS officers, "Being a francophone too, Archbishop Rousson was close friends with the Ninth Circle member Archbishop Gerald Lacroix. They wrote a book together. They paired up during voting at the Canadian Conference of Catholic Bishops. You don't get to become an archbishop unless you know how to keep each other's secrets. How much more of a connection do they need?" The statements of other witnesses to the 12 Mile Club and the abduction of children on Canada's West Coast will be forthcoming. And don't knock this common law court. Okay, this is the same common law court that issued those docket papers that I talked about with Bush Sr. We're going to be reverting back to common law, constitutional, not just in the United States, but even Canada. It's going to happen, and these people will be tried and arrested and convicted, prosecuted, and hopefully publicly executed. So that was from 2014. I mean, 50,000 kids. It's unbelievable. In beautiful British Columbia, you'd never suspect. But it's the Queen, it's the Prince, they're tied in with the Vatican, with the Roman Catholic Church. It's all there. Okay, so now we're going to go to one that's actually, this story is from October 10th, 2018. It was literally posted today. Evil has a name and an address, the crimes of the United Church of Canada. 2 criminally convicted United Church officials have recently launched a legal attack against Kevin Annett and the ITCCS. Who are these people and what are they trying to conceal? And why has the United Church led and continued the genocidal assault on children and Aboriginal families? Drawing on first-hand experience and irrefutable proof, host Kevin Annett is joined by his fellow author and muckraker, his father Bill, and other eyewitnesses to the crimes and cover-ups by the church and state. So they are going to, and this is from October 8th, convicted church officials issue legal notice and threaten police action against the ITCCS, Field Secretary Kevin Annett, international sheriffs and observers to be mobilized. 2 United Church officials who are lawfully convicted of concealing the death of children in Canadian Indian residential schools have launched a legal action to publicly silence Kevin Annett and his quarter-century campaign to expose and prosecute genocide in Canada. Now, I would love for someone to sue me in America because then I can sue for discovery. But in Canada, it's a little different. Both Freed and Spencer were among the 30 defendants who in February 2013 were lawfully convicted of complicity in crimes against humanity in the first common law court case brought against Canada and its churches, the Vatican, and the Crown of England for genocide. A standing arrest warrant exists against Freed and Spencer, and Nanaimo-based common law sheriffs were in the process of enforcing that warrant when Freed and Spencer moved against Kevin. I'm regarding their notice as a preemptive response to take the heat off themselves, a panicked reaction which the United Church is so good at, commented Kevin Annett today. This is just 2 days ago, October 8, 2018. In fact, their notice is a blatant assault on me of the sort their church has been inflicting since 1995. In response, the ITCCS has issued the following notice to Freed and Spencer and to their lawyers. October 8, to whom it may concern, be advised that our office has been notified of your aggressive and unprovoked actions toward our North American Field Secretary, Reverend Kevin Annett, who has our complete confidence and legal protection. Our tribunal is monitoring your actions and will dispatch international observers to any court or public action taken against Reverend Annett. Okay, so that's a big time update there. So I know this is a longer video than normal, but there's just a lot of information to get out. I'm going to put all these sources below this video, and we'll go from there. Again, if you want to see me do this full time and be able to expose these pedophiles, protect the innocent children, also go out and preach across the United States full time and not have to do my other normal job that I work 40 hours a week, my PayPal link is right below the video. You can send your donations there. I also have a link to my Patreon where you can pledge your monthly support, and I have a link to my author book page on Amazon where you can buy my ebooks if you'd like. The donations were doing really good, and then they've just totally flatlined in the last, I would say, week or so. So it looks like I'll probably just have to stay here in Juneau and just keep doing my 40-hour-week job and then trying to do this as I can, which is fine. My passion is I want to just blow this out of the water, and I'll do it however I can. But, hopefully maybe if the donations pick up again, maybe I can make plans to eventually quit my job. But for now, I can't do it. So, hallelujah, Yah is good. I wanted to do something funny, but I can't find the prop I was going to use. I just wanted to inject a little humor into my video, and now I don't know what I did. Hold on one second. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to be as prepared as possible, but... Oh, here we go. So just leave you with a little humor. I know this is a longer video than normal. Sorry. So